Hey guys, today we're in the book of First Chronicles chapter 16. Now David has brought the ark back to Jerusalem, and we see that they set the ark inside of the tent that David had pitched for it, and they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. Now remember what we read all the way back in the book of Leviticus, that burnt offerings were for consecration and the peace offerings are for fellowship, right? So they're sacrificing to cover their sins, and they're sacrificing to have a relationship back with God, right? So that was the point of those sacrifices. And then after he did this, we see in verse 4 that he appointed some Levites, some worship pastors, um, uh, and a bunch of people to keep the celebration going. This was a big thing that the ark has come back to Jerusalem. And so it says that he appointed some of the Levites as ministers for the ark to invoke, to give thanks, to praise the Lord. And then we see Asaph. We've seen him before. This is the guy who's wrote several psalms. And he has this list of not only worship leaders, but instrument people. And so this is a huge celebration, but this was never intended to be a one-day celebration. This was intended to be a long period of time, a continuous celebration. And we'll see that kind of at the end of the chapter. But when we get to verse 7, it says, "Then on that day, David first appointed that thanksgiving be sung to the Lord by Asaph and his brothers." The word thanksgiving, maybe in your translation, it says a psalm. This is a psalm. This is a song that David has written. Now, we've been told in Samuel that David was the best psalm writer ever, right? And so David, of course, we have the book of Psalms. He writes many of them in there. So he writes a song of thanksgiving. And now we get to see this song that he writes. What's interesting is that what is listed in this chapter from verses 8 to verses 36, this is actually pieces of Psalms that we have in the book of Psalms. So David writes this one psalm, and it will later become a part of the book of Psalms. And so you can find these in Psalms 105, Psalms 96, as well as Psalms 106, Psalms 106, 96, and 105. And so here we see these pieces, but the main point is I just want to read some words out of this psalm, right? So they bring the ark back. He chooses the Levites to work. They've consecrated themselves. They sacrificed for fellowship. And now he's appointed instrumentalists. He's appointed psalmists, singers, worship leaders. And so this is a big church service. This is a party. But notice the song that David writes for this moment. It says things like this: to give thanks to the Lord, to call upon his name, to make known his deeds, to sing to him, to tell of his wondrous looks, to talk about his glory, to seek the Lord, to remember the wonders, to remember the covenant. These are all action words. These are all things that he wants Israel to not only do, but remember. Remember who the Lord is, but remember what he has done and what he is going to do. And we even see this in verse 18. It says, "To you I will give the land of Canaan as the portion of your inheritance." Right? So he gave the promised land to them, but why is it in Chronicles? He's reminding the people who have gone through the Assyrian exile and now the Babylonian exile. They've come back. They're rebuilding Jerusalem. He's reminding them the promise. Remember the covenant. Remember the Lord's given us this. He's reminding them that the Lord hasn't gave up on them. He hasn't forgiven them. His promises are still true. He goes on in verse 23. It says, "Sing to the Lord, declare to the Lord, ascribe to the Lord, worship the Lord, tremble before the Lord." And so once again, you see all of these action verbs, all of these things that are talking about what they should do before the Lord. Not only that, he says that the heavens should be glad, the earth should rejoice, the sea should roar, the trees of the forest should give thanks. He's telling us that all of creation shall bow down and to worship the Lord. So if creation can worship, so can they, and so can we. Notice verse 37. It says, "So David left Asaph and his brothers before the Lord." Once again, this was not just a one-day celebration. This was continuing. And so when it says he left, it's not that he wanted to be a part of it. He was probably a part of it for days and weeks, but it was to continue on forever and ever, that they're supposed to be worshiping the Lord. And so what does he do? It says he leaves. And notice verse 39, it says he goes before the priest of the tabernacle of the Lord in the high place that was on Gibeon. So though the Ark of the Covenant is in Jerusalem, the place that they're still worshiping is not there. It's in Gibeon. It's still in the north. And it just shows you the place that it is there, right? So the Ark is in the south, but they're still worshiping in the north. They haven't pulled everything together yet. And so this is just this idea of David. What is David doing? He's bringing back worship. He's bringing back this idea of praising the Lord. He's bringing back this idea of remembering who the Lord is and the promise keeper. That's exactly what the Messiah will do. Everything that the Messiah will do will point back to the goodness, the graciousness, and the mercy of the Lord. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense, and we'll see you tomorrow in chapter 17. God bless.